Hello friends and welcome. In tonight's sleep story, we will get to know Martin, who lives in the forest, and his faithful dog Max. If you enjoy these readings, I would encourage you to subscribe and click the like button. This will help the channel immensely, and you will get notified of upcoming sleep stories. Before we begin to hear about Martin, let us unwind. Find yourself a comfortable place where you can safely relax. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Slowly exhale, letting go of any stress or worries. Continue to breathe deeply and evenly as you begin this journey into relaxation. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a serene forest. The air is crisp and cool, and you can hear the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. With each step you take into the forest, feel yourself leaving the chaos of the world behind. Visualize a soft, winding path beneath your feet, cushioned by a layer of moss and fallen leaves. As you walk along this path, notice the tall, majestic trees surrounding you, their branches forming a protective canopy overhead. The sunlight filters through the leaves, casting dappled patterns of light and shadow on the ground. You can hear the soothing sounds of the forest, the melodic chirping of birds, the babbling of the nearby stream, and the wind that blows gently through the trees. These nature sounds blend together, creating a harmonious symphony that lulls you into a state of tranquility. Ahead, you see a soft, grassy clearing bathed in the gentle glow of the setting sun. There's a comfortable spot just for you, inviting you to rest. Walk over to this spot and gently lie down, feeling the cool, soft grass beneath you. The ground supports you completely, allowing you to fully relax. As you lie there, imagine looking up at the sky through the canopy of leaves. The leaves swaying gently in the breeze, and you feel a deep sense of calm washing over you. Picture yourself sinking deeper into the grass, as if the forest was cradling you in its embrace. The forest is becoming quieter and more serene as the sun sets. The sky turns a deep, soothing shade of twilight, and the stars begin to twinkle above. The gentle sounds of the night forest lull you into a deeper state of rest. With each breath, you feel yourself becoming more and more grounded and connected to the peaceful energy of the forest. You can feel safe You can feel calm. You can feel that your mind is at ease. Your day is done. There is nothing left for you to do but rest, listen to the story, and fall asleep. And as you sleep, you know that the forest will keep you safe throughout the night. And so, let us begin to hear about Martin and his dog as they wander through this forest. Martin awoke to the soft light of dawn filtering through the small window of his cabin. The world outside was just beginning to stir, the gentle sounds of the forest waking from its slumber. He stretched, feeling the familiar creak in his joints, a reminder of the years he had spent living and working in this rugged, beautiful place. Max, Martin's dog and ever faithful, was already up, his tail thumping softly against the wood floor as he sensed Martin's awakening. The old dog looked up at him with bright, eager eyes, ready for the day's adventures. Martin smiled, ruffling Max's ears as he swung his legs over the side of the bed. The cabin was modest but cozy, filled with the warm scent of pine and the faint aroma of last night's fire. Martin moved through his morning routine with practiced ease. He stoked the embers in the hearth, adding a few logs to chase away the morning chill. As the fire crackled to life, he prepared a simple breakfast of porridge and fresh berries, sharing a bit of it with Max, who gratefully lapped up his portion. Martin had always been a man of few words, his silence shaped by a past filled with both hardships and moments of quiet joy. Born and raised in a small rural town, he had grown up surrounded by the whispers of the forest and the steady rhythm of the seasons. His father was a lumberjack, a sturdy man with callous hands and a kind heart, who taught Martin the value of hard work and respect for nature. His mother, gentle and nurturing, instilled in him a love for the simple beauties of life. A wildflower blooming by the roadside, the song of a distant bird, the golden hues of a sunset. Martin was the youngest of 3 brothers, all of whom followed their father into the woods, learning the trade of felling trees and tending to the land. The brothers were close-knit, their bond forged in the shared toil and sweat of their labor. As a young man, Martin fell in love with a local girl named Eliza. She was vivacious and full of life, with a laugh that could brighten even the gloomiest day. They married in the spring, beneath a canopy of blossoming apple trees, and for a time their life together was a picture of rustic bliss. Martin built their home with his own hands, a small cabin on the edge of the forest where they dreamed of raising a family and growing old together. But fate had other plans. Eliza fell ill shortly after their first anniversary, a mysterious sickness that sapped her strength and spirit. Despite Martin's desperate efforts and the limited medical help available in their remote town, Eliza passed away before the year was out. Her death left a void in Martin's heart, a wound that time could not fully heal. In the wake of Eliza's passing, Martin withdrew from the world. The laughter and camaraderie he once shared with his brothers grew distant, replaced by a profound solitude. He sold the family farm and moved deeper into the forest, seeking refuge in the wild places that had always brought him peace. His new cabin, smaller and more secluded than the first, became both his sanctuary and his fortress. The years that followed were a blend of routine and reflection. Martin made a modest living by crafting furniture and wood carvings, his skill with a blade and chisel honed by decades of practice. His work was sought after by those who appreciated the artistry and craftsmanship he put into every piece. Yet it was the forest walks that sustained him, the endless wonders of nature providing solace and a sense of connection. Despite his isolation, Martin was not entirely alone. The townfolk knew of him, the solitary man who lived among the trees. The townspeople viewed Martin with a mix of admiration and curiosity. To them, he was a figure shrouded in a kind of rustic mystique, embodying a connection to the land that they both respected and found intriguing. Children were often told tales of Martin's remarkable woodworking skills, his carvings said to hold a touch of magic. When they saw his pieces at the local market, delicate birds that seemed ready to take flight, or intricate forest scenes that captured the essence of their surroundings, they couldn't help but marvel at his talent. The older generation remembered Martin from his younger days, when he was a part of the community, laughing with his brothers and working alongside his father. They respected his need for solitude, understanding it as a personal journey of healing and reflection. They admired his resilience and the quiet dignity with which he carried himself, never complaining or seeking pity, simply continuing with his life in the way he knew best. The town's craftsmen and artisans particularly valued Martin. His work was unparalleled, a blend of practical utility and artistic beauty. They often sought his advice on techniques and materials, and he would share his knowledge freely, though in a few words. His presence at the occasional town gathering or market day was always a highlight, a chance for them to witness the mastery of his craft firsthand. Neighbors would sometimes see Martin on his trip into town for supplies. They greeted him warmly, but never pressed him for a conversation, respecting his preference for silence. They would leave small offerings on his doorstep, fresh bread, jars of honey, baskets of seasonal fruits, tokens of their appreciation and care. Martin, in turn, would leave beautifully carved gifts, each piece a silent thank you that spoke volumes about his gratitude. There were a few in town who misunderstood Martin's reclusiveness, seeing it as an aloofness or eccentricity. They whispered rumors about the hermit in the woods, but these were few and far between. Most understood that Martin's withdrawal was a response to his personal loss, and they respected his need for space. One of his more poignant relationships was with the town's schoolteacher, Mrs. Thompson, who had known Eliza and Martin in their youth. She would occasionally bring her students on nature walks near Martin's home, using the opportunity to teach them about the forest's flora and fauna. On rare occasions, Martin would join them, sharing his knowledge of the woods and showing the children how to identify different trees and track animals. These moments were treasured by the students and left a lasting impression on them. Martin's presence was a constant reminder of the intertwined fates of man and nature, a living example of how one could find solace and meaning in the natural world. The townfolk in their own ways looked out for him, ensuring that he remained a part of their community even as he kept his distance. And so, while Martin lived alone, he was never truly isolated, for he was woven into the very fabric of the town, just as the forest was part of the landscape. In this quiet, unspoken understanding, Martin found a sense of belonging. The town respected his solitude, and he, in turn, offered them a glimpse of the peace and beauty he found in the forest. It was a delicate balance, but one that suited them all, allowing Martin to live in harmony with both the people and the land he cherished. After breakfast, Martin dressed in his usual attire, a sturdy flannel shirt, worn jeans, and his well-loved boots. He slung a small leather satchel over his shoulder, containing his carving tools and a canteen of water. Today, like many days, he felt the pull of the forest, a deep-seated need to immerse himself in its tranquil embrace. The forest had always been a place of solace for him, but this morning there was an added sense of purpose. He had a commission to fulfill, a request from the town schoolteacher, Mrs. Thompson, for a carved wooden bench to be placed in the schoolyard. It was to be a place where children could sit and read, a small gift to encourage their love of learning and nature. With Max trotting happily by his side, Martin stepped out of the cabin and into the morning light. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the fresh, earthly scent of the forest. Birds sang from their perches high in the trees, their melodies a cheerful greeting. Martin took a deep breath, savoring the moment before setting off the well-worn path that led into the woods. As they walked, Martin's mind wandered, reflecting on the task at hand. The bench would be simple, yet sturdy, crafted with care from the finest wood the forest had to offer. He had a particular spot in mind, a grove of oak trees where the wood was strong and beautiful, perfect for the project. The path wound deeper into the forest, the trees growing taller and denser. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Martin's steps were sure and steady, each one bringing him closer to the grove. Max darted ahead, his nose to the ground, occasionally glancing back to ensure Martin was following. Max, a golden retriever mutt, had been a part of Martin's life for many years. A faithful companion who provided both friendship and comfort during the long days and quiet nights in the forest. Martin and Max's relationship was built on mutual trust and a deep bond that went beyond words. Max had been a gift from one of Martin's brothers, given to him shortly after Eliza's passing. Recognizing the depth of Martin's grief, his brothers had hoped that the presence of a loyal friend might help ease the burden of his solitude. And indeed, Max had done just that. From the moment Max arrived, a playful puppy with bright eyes and boundless energy, he and Martin were inseparable. They spent the days exploring the forest together, Max bounding ahead with joyful enthusiasm, always returning to Martin's side to ensure his presence. The dog's lively spirit was a balm for Martin's sorrow, and over the years their bond only grew stronger. Max had a sleek, golden coat that gleamed in the sunlight, and his eyes were a warm, soulful brown. He was a large dog, but his demeanor was gentle, especially with children and smaller animals. In the forest, Max was both Martin's protector and his guide, his keen senses alerting him to any changes or potential dangers. The two moved through the woods with an easy familiarity, each attuned to the other's rhythms and moods. At home, Max was a constant presence, providing comfort and companionship. He would lie by the hearth in the evenings as Martin worked on his carvings, occasionally lifting his head to watch the movements of Martin's hands. When Martin went to town, Max was always by his side. His presence a reassuring constant in a world that sometimes felt overwhelming. Their bond was evident to the townsfolk, who often commented on how well-behaved and attuned to Martin Max was. The children in particular loved Max, and he was always patient with their eager hands and playful antics. Martin took pride in Max's gentle nature, and the dog in turn seemed to understand and share in Martin's quiet contentment. Max had a knack for sensing Martin's moods. On days when the memories of Eliza weighed heavily on Martin's heart, Max would stay close, offering silent comfort with his steady presence. He would rest his head on Martin's knee or nudge him gently, a reminder that he was not alone. These small acts of companionship were a source of profound solace for Martin, a reminder of the unconditional love that Max provided. In many ways, Max was a bridge between Martin and the world. While Martin found it difficult to express his feelings to others, his relationship with Max was uncomplicated and pure. The dog's unwavering loyalty and affection helped Martin navigate the complexities of his emotions, providing a sense of stability and connection that was invaluable. This morning, the air was cool and crisp, filled with the earthy scent of pine and the faint sweetness of wildflowers. Martin took a deep breath, feeling the tranquility seep into his bones. For Martin, these walks were a solace, a time to escape the solitude of his cabin and immerse himself in the vibrant life that thrived within these ancient woods. Tall, majestic trees towered above him. Their leaves whispered secrets to the wind. Sunlight streamed through the canopy, creating a mosaic of light and shadow on the forest floor. Martin's eyes followed the playful dance of the light, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He was a man of simple pleasures, finding joy in the beauty of nature that many overlooked. As he walked, Martin's fingers brushed against the rough bark of a towering oak, its age-old strength a comforting presence. He marveled at the delicate ferns that unfurled at its base, their intricate fronds a testament to nature's artistry. A flash of color caught his eye, and he turned to see a cluster of wildflowers in full bloom, violets, daisies, and buttercups, each one a tiny explosion of color amidst the green. Martin paused to kneel beside the flowers, his weathered hands gently cradling a delicate blossom. He admired its fragile beauty, a stark contrast to the own rugged exterior. His life had been one of hard work and solitude, but here in the forest he found a connection that went beyond words. The flowers, the trees, the very earth beneath his feet, they all spoke to him in a language he understood instinctively. A rustle in the underbrush drew Martin's attention, and he watched as a family of deer emerged from the shadows. The doe regarded him with calm, knowing eyes, her fawns playfully darting around her. Martin stood still, his breath barely a whisper, not wanting to disturb the serene scene. The deer moved with grace and quiet confidence, embodying the peaceful harmony that Martin sought in his own life. Continuing his walk, Martin reached a small clearing where a babbling brook wound its way through the forest. He crouched by the water's edge, watching as the sunlight turned the ripples into liquid gold. The sound of the water was a soothing melody, a reminder of the ceaseless flow of time. Martin cupped his hands and dipped them into the cool, clear water, savoring the refreshing sensation. As he straightened up, Martin noticed a fallen log that provided a perfect spot to sit and reflect. He lowered himself onto the log, his eyes scanning the familiar landscape, birds flitting from branch to branch, their songs a cheerful accompaniment to the rustling leaves. A squirrel scampered up a tree, its bushy tail a blur of motion. Everywhere he looked, Martin saw life, resilience, and beauty. They reached the grove just as the sun began to climb higher in the sky. The trees stood tall and majestic, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Martin took a moment to appreciate the beauty of the place, the way the light played off the leaves, the serene stillness that enveloped them. He set to work, selecting a fallen branch that was both sturdy and straight. With practiced precision, he used his tools to shape and smooth the wood. Max lying nearby, watching with attentive eyes. The rhythmic motion of carving was meditative, each stroke of the blade bringing the bench closer to life. As he worked, Martin thought of the children who would sit on the bench. Their laughter and chatter filled the schoolyard. It brought a sense of fulfillment, knowing that his craft would bring joy to others, even in a small way. The forest, as always, provided the inspiration and materials, a silent partner in his endeavor. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher until it was directly overhead. Martin paused, wiping the sweat from his brow and taking a long drink from his canteen. The bench was taking shape, its smooth lines and sturdy frame a testament to his skill and care. Satisfied with his progress, Martin decided to take a break. He sat on a nearby log, Max coming to rest at his feet. The forest around them was alive with the sounds of nature, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of a stream, and a gentle wind blowing through the trees. Martin closed his eyes, letting the peaceful ambience wash over him. As the day wore on, Martin and Max continued their work, each moment spent in the forest a reminder of the beauty and tranquility that life could offer. It was in these simple, purposeful tasks that Martin found his greatest joy, a testament to the enduring bond between man, nature, and the quiet strength that comes from both. As the afternoon light began to soften, Martin made the final touches to the bench. Each detail was meticulously crafted, ensuring that it was not only sturdy, but also beautiful, a piece of the forest itself. The wood glowed with a natural luster, the grains and knots adding character to the piece. Satisfied with his work, Martin stood back and admired the bench. It was simple yet elegant, a perfect blend of form and function. He ran his hand over the smooth surface, feeling the warmth of the wood. Max, sensing the completion of their task, wagged his tail and gave a soft bark of approval. Now came the challenge of transporting the bench to Mrs. Thompson. Martin had anticipated this and had prepared a small, sturdy cart back at his cabin for such purposes. He and Max made their way back through the forest. Once at the cabin, Martin retrieved the cart and carefully loaded the bench onto it, securing it with ropes to ensure it wouldn't shift during the journey. Max watched attentively, occasionally sniffing at the bench as if to give his final inspection. Martin smiled at his loyal companion, grateful for the dog's constant presence. With the bench securely in place, Martin and Max began the trek to town. The cart was heavy, but Martin's years of living and working in the forest had given him the strength and endurance needed for such tasks. The path to town was a mix of dirt trails and gravel roads, winding through the countryside and gradually giving way to the outskirts of the small community. As they walked, Martin felt a sense of fulfillment. The bench was more than just a piece of furniture. It was a gift, a way to share a piece of the forest's tranquility with the children who would use it. Max trotted alongside, occasionally pausing to sniff at interesting scents along the way. When they arrived at the town, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm, golden light over the buildings and streets. The townfolk were used to seeing Martin on his occasional visits, and they greeted him with friendly nods and smiles. Some stopped to admire the bench, offering words of praise for its craftsmanship. Mrs. Thompson was waiting at the schoolhouse, having been informed of Martin's delivery by one of the town's children, who had seen him approaching. Mrs. Evelyn Thompson was a pillar of the small town, known and loved by everyone who lived there. In her mid-50s, she had a presence that commanded respect and exuded warmth. Her hair, once a vibrant auburn, was now streaked with silver, often tied back in a loose bun or braid. Her eyes, a deep, kind blue, were always filling with a twinkle of understanding and a hint of mischief, reflecting her genuine love for life and learning. Mrs. Thompson had been the town schoolteacher for over 3 decades. Over the years, she had taught multiple generations of the same families, watching her students grow from curious children into responsible adults. Her dedication to education and her students was unparalleled, making her an integral part of their community. The classroom was a testament to her passion for teaching. Brightly colored posters adorned the walls, showcasing everything from the alphabet to world maps. Shelves, lined with books of all genres and levels, stood against one wall, while another held jars of art supplies, encouraging creativity and exploration. The classroom was always filled with the hum of activity, laughter, and the occasional burst of song, as Mrs. Thompson believed in learning through play and engagement. Outside the classroom, Mrs. Thompson was equally active in the community. She organized events, led reading groups, and was a regular presence at town meetings. Her garden, overflowing with flowers, herbs, and vegetables, was the envy of many. She often brought fresh produce and bouquets to share with neighbors, her green thumb a symbol of her nurturing spirit. Despite her busy schedule, Mrs. Thompson always made time for her students individually. She had a knack for understanding each child's unique strengths and challenges, providing them with the guidance and encouragement they needed. Her door was always open. Whether a student needed help with a tricky math problem or simply wanted to talk about their day. Mrs. Thompson had known Martin and Eliza in their younger days. She had watched their love blossom and had mourned with Martin when Eliza passed away. She admired Martin's resilience and understood his retreat into the forest. Over the years, she had subtly kept an eye on him, ensuring that he remained connected to the town in small but meaningful ways. The request for the bench was one such effort. She knew that Martin's craftsmanship was unparalleled, and that creating something for the school would be a way for him to contribute to the community in a way that felt comfortable for him. The bench was not just a gift for the children, it was a bridge between Martin and the town. A way to remind him that he was still an important part of their lives. In their youth, Martin and Evelyn, as she was known before becoming Mrs. Thompson, had been part of the same social circle in the small town. They attended the same school, participated in community events, and grew up amidst the same natural beauty of the countryside. Although they were not particularly close friends, they had a friendly and respectful relationship, rooted in their shared experiences and mutual acquaintances. Evelyn remembered Martin as a quiet, thoughtful boy with a deep love for nature, often seen exploring the woods or helping his father with the lumber work. She admired his craftsmanship even then, often hearing about the beautiful things he made with his hands. Martin, on the other hand, appreciated Evelyn's bright spirit and her eagerness to learn and help others. She was always the one organizing study groups or volunteering at community events, traits that carried over into her teaching career. Their paths diverged somewhat after high school. Martin stayed in town to help his family with their lumber business, while Evelyn left to pursue her teaching degree. They reconnected when Evelyn returned to the town to start her career as a schoolteacher. By that time, Martin had married Eliza, and Evelyn had also settled into her role in the community. Evelyn and Eliza became good friends. Eliza, with her vivacious personality, was a perfect complement to Evelyn's more structured and nurturing demeanor. The two women often collaborated on community projects, such as organizing town fairs or setting up educational programs for children. Martin was always supportive of their endeavors, often lending his woodworking skills to create props or decorations for various events. When Eliza fell ill, Evelyn was one of the people who offered the most support to Martin. She would visit regularly, bringing meals, helping with chores, and simply being there for moral support. She witnessed firsthand the depth of Martin's love for Eliza and his devastation when she passed away. Evelyn's empathy and kindness during that difficult time created a bond between her and Martin that went beyond mere acquaintance. After Eliza's death, Evelyn respected Martin's need for solitude but never lost touch completely. She understood his retreat into the forest as a way to cope with his grief. Over the years, she made subtle efforts to keep him connected to the community, whether it was through requests for his woodworking skills or inviting him to participate in the annual nature walks with her students. Their shared past gave Evelyn a unique understanding of Martin's character and struggles. She knew the path of his grief and the solace he found in nature. Her respect for his need for solitude was balanced by her belief in the importance of community. This understanding allowed her to approach Martin in a way that was gentle and respectful, fostering a quiet but enduring connection. In their own ways, both Martin and Evelyn found fulfillment in contributing to their community. For Martin, it was through his craftsmanship and the solace he found in nature. For Evelyn, it was through her teaching and her unwavering dedication to the town's well-being. Their shared history and mutual respect created a foundation for a quiet but meaningful relationship that enriched both their lives and the lives of those around them. Mrs. Thompson's eyes twinkled with gratitude as she saw Martin approach with the bench. "Oh, Martin, it's beautiful," she exclaimed, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. "The children will love it." Martin nodded, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Glad you like it. Should be sturdy enough to last. Mrs. Thompson watched as Martin and a few of the townfolk helped place the bench in the schoolyard, under the shade of a large oak tree. It fit perfectly, blending seamlessly with the natural surroundings. The children, who had been curious about the new addition, gathered around, their excitement palpable. They ran their hands over the smooth wood, clambering onto the bench, laughing and chattering about the stories they would read and the games they would play there. Seeing their joy, Martin felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was why he did what he did, bringing a touch of the forest's peace and beauty into the lives of others. Mrs. Thompson thanked him again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a long shadow across the schoolyard, Martin and Max began their journey back home. The path was now dimly lit by the first stars of the evening, the forest welcoming them back with its familiar sounds and scents. Walking in the cool twilight, Martin reflected on the day. The creation and delivery of the bench had been a reminder of the interconnectedness of his life with the community. A subtle but powerful affirmation of the quiet impact he had on those around him. Max walked closely by his side, a silent but steadfast companion. Back at the cabin, Martin and Max settled in for the night. The fire crackled warmly in the hearth, casting a soft glow around the room. Martin sat in his favorite chair, Max at his feet, and allowed himself to bask in the contentment of a day well spent. The forest, as always, had provided not only the materials, but the inspiration and peace that filled his heart. The forest, with its timeless beauty and serene presence, was a sanctuary that would always welcome him.